Dead Island 2 was kind of a depressing case because it was a game that had been in the works for a long time, like announced in 2014 level of long time, and the final product, while not groundbreaking, was actually pretty decent by most accounts. But the decision to restrict the PC version to the Epic Games Store was a huge letdown, and a lot of PC players skipped over it and decided to just wait for the Steam release since we knew it was going to be a year of Epic Games Store exclusivity. Well, that Steam release finally came yesterday on April 22nd, and it went about as disastrously as it possibly could have, and it was basically all Epic Games' fault. And I'm absolutely convinced that Epic, after years of being financially embarrassed by their PC storefront, has decided to get much more scummy with the contracts they signed for timed Epic Games Store exclusives. So the other day, Dead Island 2 launched to mixed reviews on Steam due to a number of very strange attributes of this version, including de novo DRM for really no reason because this game is a year old and apparently was already cracked. But the much bigger issue is apparently this game also includes a download of some good old-fashioned Epic Games Store background software, which is not only really shady and completely unnecessary, but also apparently made the game unplayable for a lot of people on launch day because those good old-fashioned Epic online services were not prepared for the game's launch. Meaning that despite insisting on being a part of the Steam version of Dead Island 2, Epic Games wasn't even prepared for it. They weren't prepared for the thing they insisted on being a part of. And given the kind of people who run Epic Games and make these kinds of decisions, I really wouldn't be surprised if this was intentional. I'm not accusing anyone of doing things on purpose. I just really wouldn't be surprised if they did. I just don't understand how anyone involved could have possibly seen this as a good decision. You know, de novo for a game that came out on PC a year ago, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm not sure what nefarious actors you're trying to guard this game from here that weren't already nefarious about this game over the last 12 months. Like, this game has existed on the PC for a year already. Adding DRM to the Steam version just doesn't make any logistical sense. Cause like, who are you protecting yourself from at this point? But obviously, the much bigger problem here is the fact that this Steam game forces you to download anything from Epic Games to access this game. The whole reason we didn't buy this game on the Epic Games Store is because we didn't want to download anything from Epic Games. But now you're shoving Epic software into the Steam version of a previously Epic exclusive game? How big was that check? Like, seriously, Dead Island 2 was in development for like 10 years. How much did Epic have to pay you for the privilege of absolutely annihilating the number of copies you sell on this platform? That check could not possibly have been worth it. The only angle I can see here, like, the only thing that I can see is that Epic Games might want this because if they can force their software onto the computers of Steam players, then I guess they can kind of, in their brain, condition people into using their software and eventually just switch over to buying games on the Epic Games Store since, you know, some Steam games already force you to use Epic software and I guess my computer didn't explode then. I guess I'll use Epic Games Store now. Like, that's truly the only logistical reason I can come up with for something like this. And even then, I can't imagine that's actually worth it for Epic. Like, that is not the way to win people over after all this time. And for some extra comedy, look at this Steam community post from April 12th, less than 2 weeks before launch, where OP says that they reached out to Dead Island 2's support team to ask about whether or not the Steam version would be integrated with the Epic Games Store in any way. And the Dead Island 2 support team person specifically said the Epic account was only required for online play and not required for single player. So tell me why people literally could not launch the game on launch day because of the Epic side of things. DK says the game installs the Epic Games services in the background. It's necessary for the game to function. Step 1, uninstall. Step 2, refund. I don't care about the game being good or even if it's on sale. I don't want the Epic Games Store, let alone the service on my PC. Scissor Snap, not recommended. Wow, Epic garbage in the background. It's not a Steam version. As long as this garbage remains attached to the game, this will be a negative. Ricky Rat says connecting to Epic services. 5 minutes later, force quit the game. Do not connect to Epic services. Thanks, Epic. Not recommended. Game doesn't work. Epic Online Services not found. I have it installed. Try uninstall, reinstall. Nothing. Can't start the game. Caleb says installs Epic Online Services. Why am I buying it on Steam? Then doesn't even start because it can't detect it. Stormbringer. Epic Online Services. No thank you. So you want to bring the game into Steam but force me to use EOS? This is ridiculous. If I was okay with Epic's garbage, I would have bought the game on Epic a year ago. Mark requires Epic Games Online Services but provides no way to install this. I run games via crossover on my Mac and it's entirely unplayable unplayable. If you play games this way, it will not work. And then this one from Gato Laser is kind of long, but I'm going to read the whole thing because it sums this up really well. So, Dead Island 2. As a huge fan of first-person melee games, this was going to be an instant full-price day-one purchase for me, but since this stupid publisher sold their souls for V-Buckaroo's children's money from Papa Sweeney, I am getting it now, 1 year later, without bugs and with 2 DLCs cheaper than the base game. Ain't life grand? The game is pretty good. I have played enough of it on Xbox Cloud to know it's good. Dambuster saved it from trash and actually made it worth it. The flesh system is a darling. Take notes, Techland. So, if I like this game, why is the review negative? Because it uses EOS and Denuvo. Ha ha ha! EOS! It forces you to install EOS, no warning, no prompt, and it does not run without it. If it does not detect EOS, it just closes. What a joke. Also, Denuvo, ha 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 ha! Good job punishing your paying customers with worse performance, stutters, and required online connection for a single-player game. 2024, man. Gaming is a nightmare. Also, the game is already cracked. Come on, who the F cares? Last but not least, fix the desktop icon. What is this? 2012? Fuck Epic. And I don't blame the developers for this at all, by the way. I absolutely blame Epic for forcing this on them. That Dead Island 2 support person probably didn't know that this was going to be required of them, because what sense would it make for this to be required of them? There's no reason for the Steam version of this game to require an Epic online service unless Epic wrote that into their contract of the exclusivity deal. Like, oh, we don't only get your PC port for a year, but we also get to integrate ourselves with the non-EGS version of the game once it comes out. And in return, they just write a gigantic fat check. There is literally no other reason that this should have happened. If you have any other explanation for this, please tell me in the comments, because I don't know. I genuinely can't think of any other explanation for this. Although, speaking of developers, one of these negative Steam reviews actually did get a response from a developer. I don't know exactly who this person is. It is the only comment I saw that got a developer response, but I also just have a gut feeling that this developer is on the Epic side of things and not the actual Dead Island creative team. I just have a hunch. But let's read this together. So this review says, not recommended, it needs Epic's trash installed, don't link your accounts, the game will be unplayable because of it, can't connect to Epic services. Wow, good job, Epic. I wonder why people hate your services. And then a developer responds, and again, this is the only developer response I saw on the entire thing. He says, hi, Hybrid, the Epic Games launcher isn't required to play the game. If you prefer enjoying either single player or multiplayer with other Steam users, you won't need the Epic Games launcher. However, for crossplay with players who own the game on EGS, the launcher will be necessary to sync up the friends list. Oh, that's just so nice of them. But wait a minute, I didn't realize anyone was talking about the Epic Games launcher. Because no one was talking about that. They were talking about Epic Online Services. And like, out of all the negative reviews about requiring the Epic Game Services, this is the only one that someone responds to. And in their response, the only thing they have to say is that the game doesn't require the Epic Games launcher. But that was never the issue. The issue was that anything Epic Games related had to be installed. But the developer responds to this criticism by saying the game doesn't require the Epic Games launcher specifically. That's all they have to say about this. They are actively trying to hide this from you. There is no reason to be so deflectory and dishonest about this, other than to try and cover your tracks, because you know nobody wants this. It frustrates me so much to see a game that I was really interested in, and a lot of people were really interested in. It's just a solid fact at this point that if you release a game on Steam and the Epic Game Store at the same time, like a vast majority of your copies are coming from Steam. That's just the way it be. People don't want to use Epic's service. I made a whole video a while back about how Epic themselves have confirmed that the store part of Epic Games Store is hilariously flopping. It's losing them money year over year. And what was it? Something like 66% of all of the storefront's revenue is just from Fortnite? This is not a storefront. It's a Fortnite launcher. Why are you still doing this? Why are you punishing other people's games because you can't be bothered to make your storefront better? And now you're resorting to shoving your storefront into a different storefront for no other reason than just you want to, because they don't benefit from this. Epic doesn't, I assume Epic isn't getting any money from the Steam copies of this game sold just because they're hosting the online services, unless that's in the contract as well. Because just looking at all of these weird like completely brainless things going on right now. You can't genuinely believe that this is being done on behalf of the developers or done because the developers want this. You can't genuinely still think that. This is Epic's doing, and I just don't understand what they're trying to do at this point. The battle is lost. You lost against Steam a long time ago. Stop punishing other companies because you can't be fucked to make your product better. I just don't understand why Epic is writing these checks to devs still and trying to make these exclusivity deals. You can't possibly see it as a good look for your company. The whole reason you have to write these developers checks is because you know they won't use your service organically. So maybe if you made making money on your service easier for developers and publishers, maybe they would put games on your service organically like they do for Steam. But you can't do that because your entire platform is built upon the lie that Steam is bad for the consumer and Steam's a dirty, dastardly monopoly. Even though that is not true, it never has been true, and you could be just as fondly looked upon as Steam tomorrow if you just did what Steam has been doing. But you're not doing that, because if you do what Steam is doing, you then have to admit that Steam is actually just a better product than you and it has nothing to do with any kind of monopoly. And Tim Sweeney is incapable of admitting any kind of fault. So he will continue to sign these deals, he will continue to ruin other people's projects, and he will continue kneecapping other people's sales because he's a child. And I feel so bad for the people who worked on this game, because you worked on this game for so goddamn long. You didn't deserve for it to fail like this. None of this is your fault. Like, you guys did everything right. It's so disappointing. It's so frustrating. Just don't give any money to Epic ever. Just like let's just get them out of here. Let's just get them out of this industry. It's the best for everyone. Oh my god, Toodles.